Welcome into the Diamond Vols Podcast. I am Ben McKee, joined as always by Eric Cain. And Eric, another weekend of Tennessee baseball winning, another weekend of the dramatics.
What a weekend, right? I mean, Friday was slow, so slow, and then all of a sudden 2 fun innings. Saturday was pretty solid game, and then Auburn takes the lead late, and the theatrics. Then Sunday, little back and forth affair. Then some incredible pitching. Another reason why Tennessee just continues to be the best team in the country, but it was never a dull moment on Rocky Top, and I feel like that's regardless of any sport that is, and baseball is just taking its turn right now.
We're going to start with the pitching because I think that's the biggest takeaway. We're going to get into it individually. Tennessee does have to play a rubber match for just the second time this season. They win on Friday night. They lose on Saturday night. We'll get to those theatrics. But the biggest takeaway for me from the weekend is Ben Joyce. How can it not be? First high leverage situation of the season. First legitimate high leverage situation of the season. And he absolutely delivers. He was flawless is what he was. And I'd been wanting to see him in a high leverage situation. We finally saw it, and against one of the better teams in the SEC, one of the better teams in the country, and a team that I think is going to threaten to get to Omaha, assuming that their pitchers who were hurt over the weekend turn out to be healthy and are good to go for the stretch. I think that Auburn could compete to go to Omaha. I really do believe that. I think they have the pitching, the hitting, and the one guy that can slug their way to Omaha if the right matchup landed in their favor. But against that team that I just described, Ben Joyce puts Tennessee on his back and pitches 4 scoreless innings on Sunday. He gave up 1 hit, and he struck out 6, all against that team that I described in a close game. Tennessee jumps out to a 3-0 lead in the first inning. Drew Gilbert hits a sac fly. Trey Lipscomb hits a 2-run home run. Tennessee's up 3-0 until the top of the 5th. Drew Beam gets the start. He was really good to start the game. 3 consecutive 1-2-3 innings. He doesn't allow a base runner until 1 out in the 4th inning when Auburn singled up the middle. And then, funny enough, on a 3-0 count of all counts, Sonny Teixeira has the green light and was not his best 3-0 swing and grounds out to third for a 5-4-3 double play to get out of the inning. And then Drew Beam runs into some trouble in the 5th inning, gives up 2 runs. We'll come back and touch on this, but Tony Vitello chooses to bring Drew Beam back out for the 6th inning, gives up back-to-back walks to start the 6th inning, then gives up an RBI single that allows Auburn to tie the game. And here comes Ben Joyce, 3-3 ball game, no outs, runners on first and second, top of the 6th, throws 4 pitches to get out of the jam. Second pitch, a double play, 2 quick outs. 2 pitches later, a ground ball to shortstop to get out of the inning and prevent giving up the lead. And he was just absolutely lights out from that point on. Went on to pitch 4 scoreless innings, struck out 6, 53 pitches, and the radar gun was buzzing galore. Just the numbers are absolutely stupid. He threw 1 pitch that was 105.5 on Tennessee's equipment, not the stadium radar gun, on Tennessee's equipment. That I asked Tony Vitello after the game. I said, hey, how accurate is y'all's equipment that y'all use where he touched 105.5? And Tony Vitello said it's pretty daggum accurate. So that if it were a major league pitch would be the second fastest major league pitch of all time. And he threw 33 fastballs on the afternoon. 28 of them were 103 miles per hour or more. He threw 15 pitches that were at least 104 miles per hour, and he threw 3 pitches at least 105 miles per hour. And I cannot emphasize this enough. It's not the stadium radar gun. That is the legitimate equipment that Tennessee is using to analyze and track data. It was an absolute show, Eric.
like Thor out there throwing a baseball, man. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it's really hard to think that it's possible to throw that hard that often, right? I mean, you said 33 of them were fastballs, 28 of them were over 100 miles an hour. Is that what you said?
Over 103. 28 of the 33 fastballs that he threw were at least 103.
It just doesn't seem like that could be possible, right? I mean, I know throwing 100 is more common nowadays than it was when you and I were growing up. I mean, back when you and I were growing up, it was like, I know I'm a little bit older than you, but it was like you had triple digits. I mean, it was a Aroldis Chapman that could do it. Craig Kimbrell can do it when he first came up, but barely he could touch it. That was about it, right? And I mean, now it's common, but I mean, to throw it that often, that the quantity of that in one outing is just it's incredible. So it was so impressive, what he was throwing. The fact that he went 4 innings was incredible, because this staff believes he can start. I mean, they're not going to do that, but they believe that he can be stretched out and he can go more than just being a 1 inning guy, a 2/3 of an inning guy. Obviously, he went 4 innings today, so I mean that was impressive. But just also the fact that you pointed out there, it's like everybody's been so mesmerized by Ben Joyce this season, as they should be. I'm not taking anything away from that, but it's like, okay, great, they're winning by 10 runs, and a guy goes out there and throws 104 miles an hour. That's cool. What can he do in a close ball game? What can he do in a situation where a guy's called on in the back end of the bullpen to come in and get a hold or save the game, right? I mean, he got the win today. He pitched 4 innings, but today we saw that. And so I thought it was awesome. I have more confidence in him now than I did before the day started, obviously. I like to see it again. I think everybody else would like to see it again, but the fact that he came away with the game on the line in a high leverage situation, that was big for him. And he was absolutely phenomenal on a Sunday.
How does this weekend change your thinking of Ben Joyce going forward?
Just that I've got more confidence in him. I need to see it again. I would like to see it again a couple more times. Again, this is the only time we've seen it, a true high leverage situation, and he was amazing. But I'd like to see it again a couple of times before I feel really, really confident that, he goes out there. And I mean, baseball's baseball. You get hit around a little bit sometimes. I get that, but I've got way more confidence in Redmond Walsh coming out, in the back end of the bullpen than I would Ben Joyce right now. And that's after Sunday. And I think that's okay to say, because Walsh has done that, his entire career.
It is okay to say that. I don't blame you for feeling that way. But after today, I trust Ben Joyce as much as I trust Redmond Walsh.
But you've seen him do it one time, though. One time.
It's the stuff. It is
sure,
the stuff.
But I mean,
it's impossible to hit.
But he's been hit up a little bit this year at times, right? I mean, it's not
as he was building himself up from Tommy John. I do. Yeah. It's not. Look, and I am going to strongly overreact over these next couple of minutes. I'll be the first to tell you. I am going to react as we have this discussion. So although I am overreacting, I am taking today with a grain of salt, recognizing that it is a one-day thing. But I am willing to go to the extreme to say that, hey, moving forward, like I do trust Ben Joyce until he gives me a reason not to. He just hasn't completely gone out there and peed down his leg. I mean, he's been hit here and there, but it hasn't been like anything extreme. And I do think part of that was him building back up from Tommy John. And look, I still trust Redmond Walsh, and the way I described it to you is that there's no head honcho down there in the bullpen. It's not one guy that's going to lead the way. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is like, I trust Ben Joyce as much as I trust Will Mabry, yes, but Redmond Walsh. And like, to me, if the game's on the line, I'm going to have as much confidence, because even with Redmond, as great as Redmond has been in his career, there's always that thought in the back of your head that reminds you, this dude throws 87, 88 miles per hour. If he leaves it over the middle of the plate, what happened Saturday night when Auburn comes back to win is going to happen. And Ben Joyce is just a freak. And I guess I'm assuming, maybe this will come back to bite me in the butt, but I'm assuming that he's kind of broken out of his shell now. And then it's just going to be complete liftoff from here, and we're not going to look back. And it's just you can't hit what he's throwing when he is on, and I'm assuming he's going to be on. You can't hit it. You can't hit 103, 104, 105 on top of a ridiculous slider that breaks 4 feet and is coming in mid 80s. And then you also have to keep in the back of your mind the thought of him throwing a changeup that drops off the face of the planet at 90 miles an hour. Like that's impossible to hit if his command is on. So I'm assuming that it's just going to be liftoff from here, and he's not going to look back.
I mean, that's the hope, right? I mean, he was incredible today, and you're right. He's not been bad this year by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying today was the first time he was tested, and he passed it with flying colors, and it was awesome. And I want to see it again, and then again, and then again. So, it's not like I don't trust him. It's just he throws 100 miles an hour, 100 plus miles an hour consistently 28 times on a Sunday. That's what you want to come in the back end, not necessarily even to close the game in the 9th inning, but in the biggest spot, whether that's 7th, 8th, 9th, and that's kind of how Tennessee does it anyway. Like you want him to be that guy that comes in just like today and shuts it down, right? And so for him to be that guy, I think that'd be awesome. I guess for my confidence to be just as much as a Redmond Walsh or, some of these other guys have been doing it so long, I guess I just need to see it a little bit more. But anyway, that's the dream, right? To have a guy like that just throws heat and is accurate. And because you're right. I mean, guys just can't, you can barely touch it. I mean, you're so far behind it. You're barely, or you're scared of it, So what he did today was incredible. Gosh, if you can get that from him consistently, maybe not 4 innings, but consistently down the stretch. I mean, just another reason why Tennessee is the best. We're a broken record. Another reason why Tennessee is the best team in the country, and it's not even close, right?
Yeah, and we'll lump in Saturday night into this conversation because I want to backtrack and remind whoever saw that, hey, I was taking up for Tony Vitello on Saturday night when people were mad that they did not bring in Ben Joyce because, it's Redmond Walsh. He's appeared in more games than any Tennessee pitcher in history and has an ERA under 2 for his career. He is 2 saves away from the career save record to tie Todd Helton. And yes, he's benefiting from the COVID year to help catch Todd Helton. But still, he had a lot of saves in his career even before this year. And this season alone, he's pitched Tennessee out of jams. Not a ton because Tennessee hasn't been in a ton of those situations, but go back to Ole Miss and that Sunday. We can go back to last Sunday. I know Christian Moore and Christian Scott and Jarrell Ortega were the heroes offensively, but it was Redmond Walsh on the mound who was getting it done that allowed Tennessee to have those heroic moments at the plate and Christian Scott in the field. So even just a week ago today, he was just out of his mind in Gainesville. So I understood rolling with Redmond in that situation. He had just pitched a terrific 8th inning, 3 up, 3 down, didn't show any signs that he needed to come out. Then he comes out and he gives up a leadoff single to start the 9th, but then he bounces back with 2 ground balls for 2 quick outs and you're an out away. And then it just spiraled out of control really quick. You give up the double that tied the game. And no, I think it was a single because
Sonny it was a single to left. Yeah.
Yeah. And they made the right baseball decision by intentionally walking Sonny DeShera. The guy, Bobby Pierce, hitting behind Sonny DeShera and the guy who hit the 3-run home run that essentially won Auburn the game in the top of the 9th. He had been 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts in the series to that point. You intentionally walk Sonny DeShera, the best hitter in baseball, to get to the guy that's 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts. And, Redmond left the pitch over the middle of the plate and Bobby Pierce crushed it. So even last night, it's not like today where we saw Drew Beam losing his command, getting barreled up. That was a gradual thing that everybody could easily see over an inning and a half that led to a lot of people saying, hey, I think Tennessee needs to go to the bullpen now. That wasn't the case with Redmond. Redmond was good the first 75% of his outing on Saturday night, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control there, and he made two bad pitches, the double to tie it and the homer to win the game. And I would not hesitate one bit, Eric, to go back to Redmond. I trust him as much as anybody on the staff. But after today, I'm willing to overreact and say that, hey, Ben Joyce jumps to the top of the list as well. And I summed it up during Around the Horn by saying I think he's going to be a lighter version of Sean Hunley. He's not going to be the go-to guy every single time because Tennessee has so many guys you can trust out of the bullpen. But I think he's going to be another weapon like Sean Hunley was. And that's just another weapon for Tennessee to play with as they pursue a national championship.
Again, the more options you have and the more lockdown options you have that you can put in those situations, those stoppers, just the better off, the better position you're in. And again, Tennessee, to Tennessee's credit, man, I mean, it's amazing to even say this because, I mean, Tennessee's lost 4 games now. Yeah, 4 games. So, I mean, Tennessee's been down before. Tennessee's lost 4 games. So it's not like it hasn't hit any adversity. But for the majority of the season, I mean, Tennessee's not playing from behind. Tennessee's not really in a situation to where you got to go out there and get you 3 outs, to win a ball game or, to get through the meat of a lineup before you hit the back, the latter third and call it a day. And there hasn't been that many opportunities to be like, okay, well, we need this guy in this position, outside of Reb and Walsh and some of these other guys, of course, Mabry and McLaughlin and all those guys, Connell. But just adding another one that's a fire thrower that throws, 103, 104 miles per hour consistently like he was today, just going to make it all the better. So I want to see it again. Everybody wants to see again, obviously. But, I mean, he's going to get those type of opportunities moving forward because of what he proved today. And obviously he got the opportunity today because of what he's proved so far this season when he's pitched and those inter squads and all that.
Right. And he's getting better each time out. That's the other thing. And I think why I have so much confidence in him right now. I mean, go back to last weekend against Florida. I can't remember what game it was. Maybe it was Friday night after Chase Burns pitched against Florida. Ben Joyce comes in and he has a good first inning that he pitched.
He gets himself out of a jam in the 8th. It was Friday night. Yeah.
Yes. And he had pitched a clean 7th inning, if I remember correctly. And then he worked himself into a little bit of a jam in the 8th inning. And he worked his way out of it. And you and I both sat on this podcast and talked about how great it was to see him fight through that adversity and get out of a jam. So it seems like he's getting better and better as the season progresses. So I think he's really going to assert himself this second half of the season. And Tony Vitello summed it up perfectly post-game following today's win that all along we have probably brought him along slower than maybe we should have or could have, with the thought in mind that we want Ben Joyce to be at his best in May and in June. Well, what's today?
May 1st.
May 1st. And Ben Joyce,
it's going to be May.
Looks his absolute best on May 1st. And if they get that Ben Joyce for the next 2 months, Tennessee's going to win a national championship. I will tell you that right now.
You add that to the rest of the bullpen, yes, to that lineup, to the options in the starting rotation. Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's like a trade deadline acquisition. I mean, and it's like the Cubs when they won the World Series and they traded for Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis came in and it wasn't just him, but some days put the Cubs on his back and was a large part of the Cubs winning that World Series. And you're about to get another trade deadline pickup in a way because they're going to have to make a decision of which one of these 4 starters are going to come out of the bullpen. That is a decision that is going to have to be made as early as this weekend, I think. Sounds like Chase Dollander is going to try to get on the mound Tuesday and throw some innings just to get some work in and be good to go for this weekend at Kentucky. Chase Burns, he looked good. Drew Beam looked pretty good. Blake Tidwell struggled this weekend. We'll get to that. But one of those 4 guys is going to have to come out of the bullpen for the most part. Again, we've talked about it. You'll get into the situation where you need a 4th starter, yada, yada, yada. We'll cross that bridge at some point. But just generally speaking, on top of Redmond Walsh, on top of Mark McLaughlin, on top of Will Mabry, on top of Kirby Cannell, you're going to have Ben Joyce and one of those 4 starters, and that is just a filthy, filthy bullpen. And if you've paid attention to our preview podcast, teams don't have anywhere near the amount of arms coming out of the bullpen that you can rely on as Tennessee is going to have.
First of all, it was more than just the Yankee, okay? KB was pretty spectacular in that World Series. Javi was too.
I said that.
We preview these teams every Thursday, man, and this week it'll be Wednesday. Some of these teams are struggling to find weekend starters, right? I mean, those ERAs are inflated, and just like with Auburn, I mean, the one downfall for Auburn and its trek to Omaha potentially would be, the bullpen, because outside of those top 2 guys, which Tennessee roughed up a bit this weekend, it's like, what do you got, right? But Tennessee just has the quality of depth in the lineup and the rotation and in the bullpen now. And today, again, with what Joyce did, just adds to that. And Tony Vitello has been talking about the trade deadline acquisition, about Blake Tidwell before he came back. And now it's going to be about, Dolander when he comes back. And yeah, it's just, it's getting to the point, Ben, and I'll say this on a pod, it's getting to the point now where it's going to be, not for me, but I do believe it's getting to the point, we talked about this the other day, that like if Tennessee doesn't win this whole dang thing, it's going to be a disappointment, because there are good baseball teams out there, but no one is nearly as good as Tennessee in all areas of the game. And so baseball is baseball. You win, you lose. I get all that. But I feel like from the general public now, it would be a monster upset. I mean, Tennessee, in terms of the betting odds to win the World Series, just a ginormous lead. And you don't likely want to be in those positions a lot of the time, but that's where Tennessee is.
At worst, you got to make it to the championship series. I think we talked about it. Don't want to have another full discussion because there's a lot to talk about Auburn this weekend. But I agree with some of that sentiment. Again, I described it. If they were to make it to Game 3 and they lose a heartbreaker on that final game of the year and they don't win the national championship, I'm not going to label the season a bust.
Of course not. It's so difficult to win a championship in any sport, but I mean, especially a baseball that you go through all these. Yeah, I mean,
we see teams year after year that are this dominant that don't do anything. Arkansas last year, wire to wire, didn't lose a series, just like Tennessee is on track to do. They don't make it to Omaha. I believe I saw Vanderbilt several years ago, 26-3 in conference play, and they either made it to Omaha or didn't win a game in Omaha, something along those lines. You see it all the time.
It all changes. Yeah, you got to finish it. And but I think we do both agree where get to Omaha, got to win something.
Yes, you do have to. You have to get to Omaha and win a game to at least be in the to avoid the bust conversation. You have to at least win a game in Omaha. I agree, and that'll be something to watch in postseason. I don't think people realize it, but that's a lot of pressure to play with that regional weekend, and you got 3 people in your stadium in your city trying to gun you down. That's
I remember last year,
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, before the walk-off grand slam and what arguably is the most famous at bat in Tennessee baseball history. I'm just sitting there, I'm like, why? And again, Wright State's a good ball club because they're in a regional. But I'm like, why is Tennessee losing to Wright State right now? Like, what's going on, right? And then it took a heroic type of bat like that to prevail in game 1 of that. So I don't know. I hate even talking about this because, again, just the way I view things, the way I am, I just hate just assuming that's what's going to happen because there are games to go, there are regionals to go, there are super regionals to go, and these teams are there for a reason and they're good. And again, baseball is baseball, but it's just like it's an assumption now Tennessee will be in Omaha because they're so dang good.
Yeah, and they should make it to Omaha, point blank. Period. We'll see how it plays out. It'll be a lot of fun to discuss. So Ben Joyce, my biggest takeaway from the weekend. Wrapping up Sunday before we backtrack a little bit, Jordan Beck plays hero. I mentioned Tennessee taking a 3-0 lead in the first inning. In the 8th inning, the bottom of the 8th inning, Luke Lipschius hits a 1-out single, and then Jordan Beck steps to the plate. He goes down 0-2. He works his way back into the count and crushes a 2-run home run. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was 106.4 off the bat and traveled an estimated distance of 424 feet. And it was the bottom of the eighth, so it wasn't the game winner, but proved to be the game winner. It
was
a
a game winning hit. Yeah, it was a
Yes.
game winning hit. Doesn't matter where
Right.
it is, but yeah.
It proved to be. It wasn't in walk-off fashion, but definitely
Mm-hmm.
proved to be the game winner. Jordan Beck had another big weekend. I thought Drew Beam really battled, Eric. We talked about it. Started and looked terrific. 3 consecutive 1-2-3 innings to start the game, and then just kind of lost his command there in the 5th inning. I was surprised that Tony Vitello left him in as long as he did, and it seemed like Tony maybe thought the same in hindsight as well. But they felt good about the matchups that he had going on there, and that's why they stuck with him. But I thought it was interesting that if you were listening to Tony's post game, sounded like Drew Beam was tipping pitches to Auburn. He threw in the comment that Auburn had some of his signs or some of his pitches, and then we probably had some of theirs as well. I thought that last part, saying that they had some of Auburn's as well, was just kind of a, let me throw this in there so nobody overreacts. And it wasn't nothing crazy. Tipping pitches is a thing that happens all the time for pitchers. Sounds like that was the issue for Drew Beam and something that he'll have to correct going forward. But he didn't have a bad start last Sunday against Florida. It just wasn't the Drew Beam that we had become accustomed to. I thought the start to this week's game was far better. The outings kind of flip-flop. Last week it was start rough, finish good. This week it was start excellent and then run into a rough patch.
Yeah, he was incredible. So I've got Monitor City here in the home office. I'm sitting here. I'm pounding away at stuff all day long, working, doing like a million things. And I've got on my left monitor, I'm watching the game. I got it right here. And I look down at the clock, and it's so the game started at 1. It's 2:00, and this game's in the 5th inning. I'm like, holy smokes. And a lot of that's because Drew Beam was just humming, man. I mean, he was going so quick. He was working fast. He looked great. Ran into trouble there in that 5th inning. Did not believe he should have came out for the 6th. I would agree with that. But here's the thing about tipping pitches too. And that's something that sounds like, Dollander was doing last start. Sounds like Beam was doing this start. I mean, at the end of the day, that's on you, right? I mean, if you're a competitor and you're on the other side and you see something that is, you're not cheating, but you're picking up on something, you're 100% going to take advantage of that. There's nothing wrong with that. Is what Tony was trying to essentially say. You got to do a better job of protecting that on your end, right? I mean, that's something that he will. And, even Chase too. I mean, you're just young, just the more you pitch, the better you get at that. But I mean, it was encouraging seeing the way he started. Didn't like the way he ended, but it was good to see kind of him respond the right way, in my opinion, from the Florida start. It wasn't a horrible start. Again, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, not very sexy, but it got the job done, at the time until, Joyce came in and saved the day.
Looking back at Saturday's game, as if Sunday wasn't enough fireworks with Ben Joyce on the mound, the volunteer fireman. Saturday's game had plenty of fireworks, and we're backtracking here. We haven't even gotten to Friday's game when Tennessee scored 15 runs.
Literal fireworks. They shot fireworks off after the game. So
yes, during the game and after the game. We'll talk about game 2 before we get back to game 1. We're working backwards tonight. Auburn wins it late. Tennessee was on the verge of winning the series in game 2. Auburn trailed 5-4 entering the top of the 9th, I should say, and tied it with 2 outs on a double from Kason Howell. We talked about Redmond Walsh's struggles earlier. Eric, I thought it was just mainly 2 bad pitches. I mean, there was the leadoff single, fairly good contact. I mean, to me, that was just kind of something that part of baseball, whatever, it happens. But then on the double that tied it in, and the home run, just 2 pitches that he left over the middle of the plate, and he got.
Yeah, well, I think there's not an issue here is because, again, you give up that single, you respond by getting 2 quick outs. Then you give up the double, you bring 1 in, tie ball game, it is what it is, and then it snowballed from there. But like the way he responded, yeah, I mean, you give up a single, and then you get 2 quick outs. So it just is what it is. Yeah, I mean, it's not much more to add to that. It's just, I mean, that's the game. Sometimes you get it.
Yeah, and all right, let's talk about this bat flip that got everybody going. Bobby Pierce hits a 3-run bomb to give them the lead, and correctly bat flips. I mean, he absolutely had every right to bat flip in that situation. But
let the kids play.
Yes, let the kids play. But he absolutely bat flipped towards the Tennessee dugout, and in a pretty good manner. And Tony Vitello picks up the bat and chunks it back across the backstop to the Auburn side, and Auburn didn't like that, and so,
nor should they.
Yeah.
Listen, here's my stance on that. End of the day, as you can see, I was laughing. It's not. I mean, you do that stuff. I'm not saying bat flips.
No.
You bounce all that. You do stuff like that. Someone does it to you. It is what it is, in my opinion. That's my take on it.
I agree with your take in general.
Yeah.
But Tennessee has not bat flipped at a coach or at a dugout this season. There's a difference. There's a difference between bat flipping and putting a nice little umph behind a bat flip towards the opposing coach. There is a difference.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Like, I'm a huge unwritten rules guy in baseball. I'm 80 years old, but even me, I was just kind of like, whatever. Like, sure, don't flip the bat towards an opponent. Okay, let's not act like that's not something Tennessee would do, because I feel like Tennessee would do that. Maybe I hadn't done that, but Tennessee, that's something Tennessee would do. I could see Tennessee doing. I thought it was funny, but Tony Vitello probably shouldn't grab a bat and throw it to the other dugout, because what if he would have hit somebody? But he didn't. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. I thought it was hilarious. But because I was texting you, I was watching on TV and I didn't see initially what the issue was. They backed it up and showed the wide shot of it. I'm like, oh boy. It's just, typical Tennessee, right?
I agree that the way that Tony threw the bat back to the Auburn dugout, I do think that was excessive.
Yeah. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not that big of a deal, but
probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I agree with you there. But like, I think it's ridiculous that, quite frankly, I do think it's ridiculous that people are equating that to what Tennessee does, because Tennessee has not done that. The closest thing that they've come to doing that was the Drew Gilbert walk-off grand slam against Wright State, and he threw the bat in the air. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have sat up in that press box home and away this year, most of last year, and have watched every bat flip that Tennessee has done. I have not seen them bat flip towards the opponent's dugout and the coach. He did Bobby Pierce have the right to bat flip? Absolutely. He 1000% should have bat flipped. Bat flips are awesome. It's part of the game now. But you can be excessive with a bat flip. And I thought Bobby Pierce flipping it directly at Tony Vitello was excessive. And I thought the people commenting on Twitter saying that Tennessee does it all the time, they should take it. Yes, they are correct in theory, but Tennessee hasn't gone to that extreme yet. And everybody has a problem with Tennessee rocking the daddy hat, Tennessee rocking the fur coat. Nobody wants to say anything about Auburn players putting on the mascot head. Yeah. How dare Tennessee do it? But it's become a thing across baseball in college, and now it's even gotten into the major leagues. The Blue Jays have a jacket that they put on every time they hit a home run, and that's,
you see this in other sports too. It's in football belts too. I mean, yeah,
yes, but like, it's really picked up the last year or so since Tennessee started doing the daddy hat, and how dare Tennessee do it? But it's all cool and whatnot when when other teams do it. So I do think people were being excessive on social media. I know, shocking, right?
No,
that's never happened before. But to say, I do think there's a difference that, like, yes, Tennessee does it to others. They should be able to take it. That is 1000% factual. But in that particular instance, Tennessee has not bat flipped at an opposing coach. Not at Vanderbilt, not at Ole Miss. It's really hard to do at home, because when you bat flip at home, it's going towards the Tennessee dugout anyway, so it would be hard to do so. But they have not done that. And to me, there is a difference.
I don't know. I guess it just wasn't that big of a deal to me, and I'm probably in the minority here, and that's okay. And again, I'm a huge baseball unwritten rule guy and all that, but when I saw the video of it, the replay of it, I mean, yeah, he's bat flipping towards the dugout of Tennessee. it also takes about 3 skips and goes way over there as well. So it's like, all right, like where it hit the ground, it wasn't in the Tennessee dugout. And Tony's standing right there to begin with. I don't know. It just, for me, it wasn't that big of an issue, but I get it. Like, I understand it. I'm not going to kill the kid for doing it. I'm not going to kill Tony for what he did. Probably shouldn't do it, as we've mentioned, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I just thought that it was high energy. I mean, I like chippiness, so like none of that really bothered me. It's just I guess I didn't take as much exception to that specific bat flip as some others did.
Aside from bat flips, Eric Cain, there were some other things that took place in game 2. We talk about Auburn's top of the 9th inning. Do tip your hat to Tennessee. They battled back in the bottom of the 9th. They tried to come back and win it. Cortland Lawson led off the bottom of the 9th with a home run, made it a 2-run game. And then Jarrell Ortega is able to reach with 1 out. And I'm thinking to myself, Eric, there's no way this team is going to pull this off. They've done some pretty stupid, mind-blowing things, but if they pull this win off, just go ahead and hand them the national championship trophy. But Jarrell Ortega singles with 1 out. He brings Jordan Beck to the plate with 1 out. Beck represents the tying run. It's exactly what you want. And he pops out to center for the 2nd out. And then you still have Drew Gilbert, 2 outs. Jarrell Ortega still on. Gilbert representing the tying run. Gilbert battles but flies out to left to end the game. So big difference. Tennessee did have 10 hits, but the difference was they were 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They scored early, but kind of struggled in those middle innings to get the bats going.
I felt like they were going to come back and win it last night. I really did. I mean, again, you would think stats would tell you, trends would tell you they weren't going to do that, obviously, but just knowing this team and knowing that they never lose until they actually lose. And the way the 9th inning started for Tennessee in the bottom of the 9th, I'm like, okay. Oh, here's the tying run. But, it is what it is. And credit Auburn. Credit Auburn for coming back and winning this baseball game. The big the big shot there in the 9th inning, 3 runs in the 4th inning, or in the 5th inning, excuse me. Auburn's a good baseball team. And when we leave pitches over the plate like that hanging, they're going to take advantage of it. When you are not making your spots on the mound, you're not pitching the way that you should be, they're going to make you pay. And that's a big reason why they're 31-win team so far this season. But I did think Tennessee was going to come back and win simply because, again, this team is just so good.
Yes, I when Jarrell Ortega singled, I thought they were going to win because you brought Beck up to the plate representing the tying run. You brought Gilbert up representing the tying run. It felt like those guys were going to make something happen. And even if they got on base, Trey Lipscomb was coming up representing the winning run. So I did think that Tennessee was going to win. Now, I said it last week at Florida. It never feels like this team is actually going to lose until they actually lose the game. So the only other noteworthy thing from game 2 is Blake Tidwell did not look good. He entered the weekend with 1 walk for the season, and he ended up walking 4 over 2.2 innings. Can't get out of the 3rd inning. Just did not have command whatsoever. He threw 55 pitches, only 30 were strikes, and it was interesting. Tony Vitello, his thought process was, while he was at Florida, Tony said that Blade knew that he was on a pitch count. And what was told to me is that Blade was on a 75 pitch count, and Blade pitched like he knew he was on a pitch count. So he was going out there attacking hitters because he knew that at some point he was coming out of the game regardless, and he better get to work if he wanted to last several innings. And then fast forward to this weekend against Auburn, I'm assuming that there was no pitch count. By the way, Tony talked, and Blade knew that he was no longer on a pitch count and didn't go out there and attack in the same fashion. And that's what led to his command being off. But that was the other noteworthy thing. Camden Sewell looked good coming in and calming the storm, having to come in there in the 3rd inning, get Tennessee out of a jam. And he made a heck of a play, man. Swinging bunt, bare hands it, as his body's going towards third and is still able to get a pretty speedy runner out at first base to get out of the inning. That was terrific. He pitched 4.1 innings, and he did allow 3 runs on 2 hits and 2 walks, but he also struck out 2. He did a good job of really calming the storm after Blade Tidwell put Tennessee in an unfortunate and surprising situation there in the 3rd inning.
I thought Sewell was awesome. Yeah, sure, he gave us some runs in the 5th inning, but you're exactly right. Put him in a situation there in the 3rd, couldn't even escape the 3rd, and you're calling in your guy to come out there and give you some quality innings like Sewell, does. That piggyback approach, it worked great at Florida last weekend. That play was incredible. You just referenced. I mean, talk about Gold Glove. So I thought he pitched really, really well. Again, gave up some runs there in the 5th inning, but Tennessee was able to have its back and able to give him the lead right back. And another half inning later, I guess it was. So Blade Tidwell he just was not accurate. He was missing his spots. He did not look like the Blade Tidwell that we have seen in last year or so far this season. And it kind of happens. The walks were obviously a huge issue. 3 strikeouts to 4 walks in 2 innings and 2/3. So you hope that he gets back on track. I'm sure that he will. Everybody has a bad outing every now and then. And as soon as it's kind of like what you said, you take the training wheels off and just kind of like, okay, what do I do with all this newfound freedom, right? Maybe that was kind of the situation there with Blade Tidwell on Saturday night.
And Tony did mention something mechanical that Blade wasn't doing a good job of. I'm failing to remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was something along the lines of his glove side was flying open. So, I mean, if that was also contributing, then it seems like it'd be something that they could easily fix going into Kentucky next week. And I'd rather know the problem and be able to address it than have to try and figure out what the problem is. But seems like they were on top of it. Just a mindset going into the game and maybe a mechanical thing that Frank Anderson will get ironed out. That is for sure. Going back to game 1, it's amazing. Only this Tennessee baseball team, Eric, can score 15 runs in 2 innings and it be the last thing that we really talk about.
The Knox Bombers, 6 home runs.
I like that.
I know you like that. You wrote that. I'm looking at it right now. 6 home runs in innings 7 and 8. A grand slam, 2 home runs from Gerald Ortega, 2 home runs from Evan Russell. Being out hit, was it 9-3 entering the 7th? Mm-hmm. Again, it's just like nothing they do surprises me anymore. That was a spectacle for sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, around the horn, you thought Tennessee was going to lose that game until the 7th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just wild what this lineup is capable of in a short amount of time for sure.
8 runs in the 7th inning, 7 runs in the 8th inning. The 7th inning was more dramatic. The 8th inning was, okay, this is just stupid. And in that 7th inning, they were trailing 4-2 entering the 7th. They couldn't tally any hits. They were being out hit by Auburn 9-3 going into the 7th. And Evan Russell leads things off with a bloop double down the left field line. Seth Stevenson then gets up in singles to set up Cortland Lawson for an RBI single that made it a 1-run game. Christian Moore then singles and sets the scene for Jarrell Ortega with no outs. And Ortega's at bat has to be one of the best at bats of the season, Eric. Eric and I talked about Auburn's 2 big pitchers out of the bullpen in our preview pod, Blake Burkhalter and Skipper Carson.
Skipper,
yeah, Carson Skipper Carson, tomato, right? Same thing.
McKee Ben, yes, you are correct.
Yes, and both of them pitched on Friday. And something I said on the preview pod is like, hey, these guys pitched every single game last weekend against South Carolina and pitched a ton. And not only did they pitch a ton last weekend, but they pitched a ton this season in general. And at some point, that's going to catch up. And this was the weekend it caught up to them. Carson Skipper did not look like Carson Skipper on that Friday game. Blake Burkhalter, and this is getting to the Jarrell Ortega at bat that was so tremendous. He's injured. Looks like he hurts his hamstring, and Ortega goes down 0-2. Trainers have to go look at Burke, and that took quite a bit of time to go check on him. It looked like he was going to come out of the game. The way he was talking to the trainers, I thought he was coming out, Eric. And so Ortega has to sit through that delay. And then on the first pitch after the delay, he hits a grand slam that gives Tennessee a 7-4 lead. All pandemonium rains down. And then it just spirals out of control from there for Auburn. Evan Russell hits a 3-run home run later in that inning to make it a 10-4 game after Drew Gilbert and Trey Lipscomb hit the back-to-back singles. And then you get into the 8th inning. And the 8th inning is, like I said earlier, it was just like, okay, this is really stupid. What in the hell is happening right now? And the floodgates just completely opened. Blake Burke hits a solo home run. Jarrell Ortega hits his second home run in 2 innings. Blake Burke and Jarrell Ortega go back-to-back. Jordan Beck hits a double. Drew Gilbert singles, and then Trey Lipscomb hits a 2-run home run. Evan Russell hit his second home run, a 2-run homer after Logan Steenstra walked. It was just one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a baseball game, in quite some time at least.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And going back to the Grand Slam, the amount of mental toughness it takes to stay dialed in and locked in, because that was a couple of minutes. I mean, it took forever mid at bat to stay with their process, to stay just, like I said, absolutely dialed in, looking for the pitch and, playing the mind games and all that, stepping back in the box and to go yard, first pitch back. Gosh, I mean, just incredible. He's on quite a run right now, Jarrell Ortega. He really is. And it's been really, really fun to watch. But that overall, just that whole sequence. And then Blake Burke, a guy that we spoke on Friday night, just can't even find the bats in this lineup, right? I mean, he'd be playing, probably starting on just about every other team out there as a freshman, and he can't even find at bats right now. Pinch hit, just a piss missile. I mean, just incredible. I mean, it was. Do you remember the stats on that? I'm putting you on the spot now. You might not remember, but do you remember the stats from that the other night? I mean, it was incredible.
Yes, it was not a piss missile. It was a piss bomb. Is what that one was. I want to say it was 434 feet. I'll look it up. But it was just it was stupid is what it was, Eric. I mean, you said it perfectly. We talked about it on Friday. The guy can't crack the lineup, and here he is. The timing of the home run wasn't as impressive as Jarrell Ortega. It was a pretty easy situation for Blake Burke. 10-4 ball game late. You're pinch hitting. What do you have to lose? But the actual home run, the actual distance was, I mean, it was the most impressive home run of the night. And Tony has said that, like, hey, he may have the most natural talent of anybody on the team, and that guy can't get in the lineup.
And you're talking about Gilbert, you're talking about Jordan Beck, you're talking about Trey Lipscomb, you're talking about Christian Moore, I mean, you're talking about Jared Dickey, I mean, you're talking about all these guys, Jarrell Ortega. That's saying something too. And in case you missed Around the Horn Friday night, and you maybe weren't watching the game at the time, I mean, Chris Burke said on the broadcast that was very Ken Griffey-esque. I mean, again, he's not about overreacting, not calling Blake Burke Ken Griffey Jr., but the swing and the shot and just everything that encompassed that moment, very Ken Griffey-esque. And I'm just sitting back there like, whoa, okay. I mean, that's you don't just say that, right? And I thought that was quite the compliment as well.
And he's not wrong. His swing looks like Blake Burke, or Blake Burke's swing looks like Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing. I should say. And that's what Chris Burke is saying. Yeah. Not that Blake Burke is going to be Ken Griffey Jr. That's not what he's saying. Mm-hmm. He's just saying his swing looks like Ken Griffey Jr.'s, and it does. It really looks like Ken Griffey Jr.'s.
You ask anybody who's got the prettiest swing in baseball, or if you're making back when you were a kid, you're making your own character on the show or whatever, and you want the batting stance of the swing, it's always Ken Griffey Jr. It's again, that's such a compliment.
Yes, it is the smoothest swing of all time. Is that your tangent real quick? Is that your favorite batting stance of all time?
Oh yeah, the swing, the stance, for sure. King Griffey.
Really? I love Ken Griffey. Don't get me wrong. It's the coolest ever. But my favorite as a kid was Gary Sheffield's.
Oh, I hated that. Too much crap going on. Like that Julio Franco. It's like, all right, let's get up there and hit a baseball. Let's not get up there and do all this nonsense, right? I mean, there's a little waddle with Griffey, but I mean, there's a little waddle with everybody, but not to the extent of all those guys.
Yeah, not Gary Sheffield, wiggle, wave back there. The batting stance that I hated the most was Kevin Youkilis's. I mean,
it was disgusting.
What are we doing? Just absolute stupidity. When I was in high school, this was more my era of growing up and the players I grew up on. When Robinson Cano was a Yankee, I loved Robinson Cano. And you want to talk about smooth swings? He's got one of the smoothest swings of all time. Just so easy, cool, and calm. I loved him when he was a Yankee, and then he wanted to go do steroids with the Mariners in Seattle, and I have not liked him since. And now he plays for the Mets, and I really don't like him.
Also, in case you want to mark off another one on the bingo board here, not a Hall of Famer by any stretch of the imagination, but he's actually a manager right now, which is huge. Another batting stance favorite of mine, Mark Kotze, really liked his batting stance. Of course, he spent a couple seasons with the Braves. That's why I know him, but now he's a manager of the Oakland A's.
Anyways, aside from our tangent that I do love so much, just to put a bow on game one and the series, Tennessee scored 15 runs on 16 hits in the 7th and 8th inning. They did so on 6 home runs. And funny enough, their 6th home run, Eric, was the 100th home run of the season, just the 42nd game. And it surpassed on Friday night when they hit the 4th home run of the game. It was the 98th of the season, and that tied last year's team's home run total in 26 fewer games. Just absolute stupid stuff.
I think I saw a stat, maybe it was on the broadcast this weekend, but Tennessee's on pace right now with the home runs to finish, I believe, 7th best in the history of NCAA single season, which is, again, that's not like it's top 3, top 5, but I mean, it's top 10. I mean, that's quite the accomplishment, to be done in the history of baseball at the college level. So it's a lot of home runs. It's a lot of piss missiles and not so many piss bombs, but there's been a couple this year, including Friday night.
Yeah, and on Sunday when Jordan Beck hit his piss bomb, they are going to shatter their own record. The program record is 107. They finished with 100 on Friday night. Cortland Lawson hit 101 on Saturday. They hit 2 on Sunday, so they're at 103. And
realistically, they can get there by this time next week, by next Sunday night when we're talking. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, they may do it Tuesday night against Alabama A&M, or at least tie it. But what I was going to say is that they have the rest of May, the rest of the regular season, still a lot of regular season baseball left, about 15 games or so. They have Hoover and the NCAA tournament, and they're 4 away from tying the program record for home runs in a season. Just really, really silly. I do want to touch on the pitching from Friday night's game. Chase Burns got the start, and Chase was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was his best work. He was good early, able to work out of some jams early, and then able to work out a jam or so late. But what was most impressive about Chase Burns's outing, and I just forgot about it until I looked at my notes, that's what happens when you have a million things happen over the weekend. When he got out of that bases loaded jam,
don't alcohol, kids. Don't alcohol. That's what happens when you alcohol.
Yes, don't drink the alcohol or do drugs. But when he got out of that jam, that is the most impressive thing he has done all season. Bases loaded, no outs, and he has to face number 2, number 3, and number 4 in Auburn's lineup. And the second guy is statistically the best hitter in baseball, in college baseball, and Sonny DeShera, and he strikes out all 3 to get out of the bases loaded, no outs jam. That's just it's ridiculous.
I mean, that's stoned, right? I mean, that's pitching like he's done a lot of this year. I mean, that's pitching above your age. That was huge. I thought he was fine. I mean, was he great? Was he the best we've seen this year? Absolutely not. The reason he only lasted through 5, or he only lasted into the 6 before he was pulled, He had 97 pitches, and so he was up there. You walk 3, you strike out 9, and that through 5. That's when you work into jams and everything and get yourself out. That's why the pitch count gets up. So I thought he was fine, but I think more so than anything, Ben, it's the confidence. Now this is 2 straight starts following a 2-start episode to where he just didn't look like himself, and working yourself into that jam and then working yourself out early in the game with the heart of the order. And again, like you said, DeLucia, the best hitter in the SEC statistically at the plate. What do you think that's doing for him confidence-wise? I mean, that's got, I mean, after, again, coming off a stretch where he was not pitching his best ball, I think it's huge for him. Anyway, and he's a freshman. He's a young guy. So I remember when that happened, I said, okay, that, put an X by that. Let's remember that, maybe in a month or two, we can say, remember that time he worked out that jam against Auburn, in the bottom of the, what inning was it? Second, third? I don't even remember.
Third, I think.
Yeah. So I thought that was huge. That was freaking impressive.
2 other things I think are worth mentioning. Will Mabry didn't have a Will Mabry-esque weekend. I'm not worried about it. He'll be fine. But worth noting, at least, pitched Friday, gave up 3 runs, then was put in an unfortunate situation on Saturday, walked the only batter he faced after he entered with a 1-0 count. So disadvantage there, and wasn't able to bounce back and get the batter there. So uncharacteristic weekend for Will Mabry. I think he'll be perfectly fine. It's baseball. These things happen. Just look at Luke Lipsius, golden sombrero, 0 for 4 strikeouts on Saturday, and then has a terrific game on Sunday. It's baseball. It happens. The best of the best look awful multiple times a week and a month, however you want to word it. So that was a little weird. But hey, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's the most humbling sport. You can be the hero again, and then you can go 0 for 4 the next day. There's always another game, right?
Yes. Baseball is so stupid that Jordan Beck can look awesome against Auburn, and he could show up to the ballpark on Tuesday against Alabama A&M and go 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, it's baseball.
And he's a guy that's going to be a top 10 pick. And Tony Vitello said he might be the most explosive hitter in baseball today. And that guy might go 0 for 3. It's a possibility. I wouldn't bet on it. I'd be surprised, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever. So like you said it perfectly. It's baseball. It's the most humbling sport there is. How about Mark McLaughlin continuing to climb up the totem pole of trust? 2 innings there, picks up the win. 1 inning was after Tennessee exploded to take the lead, but he came in when Tennessee was trailing and kept the score at what it was. So Will Mabry, Redmond Walsh didn't look like themselves. They'll be fine going forward. But Camden Sewell continues to look really, really great out of the bullpen. Just something about the second half of the season for Camden Sewell. Maybe he just hates playing baseball in the cold weather. And then, look, I feel you, Cam. Now, that's the one thing I don't miss about playing baseball is playing in the cold. So maybe he just needs the weather to be warm for him to really turn it up a notch. But he continues to get better and better each weekend. And then Mark McLaughlin, Ben Joyce, really shooting up the totem pole of trust in the Tennessee bullpen.
We spoke on this before, but I think Mark McLaughlin might arguably be the most underrated guy on this team. Again, there are plenty, and we're not going to have this discussion again, but McLaughlin, super underrated, but you're right, continues to get those opportunities. He has a distinct role on this team. He absolutely does, and he just continues to cement it each and every time that he goes out there. Yeah, I mean, I just think that this weekend overall, man, it just – Auburn's a good team, and this is what Tennessee's doing to good teams. You saw the extremes. You saw Friday night what it's capable of doing against a really, really good team late in a ball game. It dropped a game, which is okay. That's baseball. It happens, but it responds in a major way on Sunday. And you saw how Tennessee was able to win a close game there and how it was able to do it. So being the way he looked on Sunday, cruising through there, Ben Joyce, what he was able to do, silencing that lineup, again, with a really, really good hitting lineup, just continues to show Tennessee is a good ball club and they're beating good teams. Auburn is a good team. We said it Thursday. We're saying it here Sunday. Auburn is a good team, and I expect those guys to contend for a spot, regional, super regionals, and maybe even more.
The other thing that we do need to mention, and this was the second of the 2 that I wanted to bring up, I thought Tennessee did well against Sonny DeShera. Like he had his one moment, the 2-run home run on Saturday, and that was it. 0 for 3 on Sunday with a walk On Friday, he was 1 for 3 with a single and a walk. And then again, on Saturday, he got you. And the 2-run home run proved to be the difference in the game. 1 for 2, 2 RBIs, 3 walks. So, not saying he had a bad weekend, but if you would have told me that those would be his numbers going into the weekend, I would have signed up for it all day long.
I just like watching him play, man. I just like
That's
watching
debatable.
him play.
I don't know that I like watching him play.
Some real, now no disrespect to the name I'm about to say, but just the comparisons, some real Prince Fielder-esque over there. Just
how dare you?
Just getting it done, right? I mean, just swing, just a great hitter, getting it done. Prince is so much more flexible than DeSher is. That is
such a way better athlete.
Yes, but just a baseball player, man. It was. I enjoyed watching him this weekend. I really did.
The disrespect for Prince Fielder is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. He was one of my favorite non-Yankees when he was in his prime.
Really?
So
I liked Prince Fielder. I liked him, but it's just kind of
his personality. He's a fun style of play. He hits the ball 1,000 feet. And I
feel like his prime was really, really, really short-lived. And that's baseball too.
I think he battled injuries.
Yeah, he did. Of course he did. They usually do. But he was one of the best in the league for sure for a little tiny window. And then it was just kind of there he is. Then it was done. It was just he vanished. I don't know. It was weird.
The other reason I like Prince is
the ESPN the ESPN body, naked body, whatever they call that. That's why. Is that it? I can't even say it. I didn't look at it.
Debatable. I think you did look at it, and you're so flustered you can't even remember the name of it. But yes, I did love the body mag of Prince Fielder. I have it hanging up here in my bonus room as a matter of fact. But no, the other reason I like Prince Fielder is because the guy who pitched to him in the home run derby when he won the home run derby, Sandy Guerrero, I took hitting lessons from in high school.
That's cool.
So yeah, during the off season before my season would start, he'd take me up to old Joe Davis Stadium there in Huntsville, Alabama, and would throw to me down in the batting cages.
You want to meet somebody famous? Ask Ben McKee. Chances are he went to high school with him, played football with him, got hitting practice from him. It's just the dude's always like, oh yeah, that guy that just tossed 8 scoreless for the Braves. Yeah, I played high school baseball with him. Oh yeah, that guy that ran the football for the Titans. Yeah, he was one of my best friends in high school. It's who do you not know, man? You're so popular.
Well, the one guy I do know is the Carson Newman Bojangles Player of the Week.
Multiple times, not just once, multiple times. So you're darn tooting about that.
Darn tootin'. Okay. We got to get out of here. This is getting ridiculous.
I'm going on vacation this week, so hey,
must be nice. I haven't been on vacation since last July.
Same here.
Yes, you are fact. Last thing, for real, on the way out the door. This is just a stat on the way out the door. Eric, Tennessee now at 40 wins on the season. 40-4. Tennessee, 40 wins in 44 games, ties the 2000 South Carolina team for the fewest games played to hit the 40-win mark by an SEC team since the league expanded in 1992. That is just another ridiculous stat that you can add to the list this season.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not a list anymore; it's a book. It's a book, bro. Yeah, it's really, really, really impressive. And so, I mean, there'll be more notes like that next weekend whenever Tennessee does whatever it does.
Yes, and this week they get a Kentucky team that they should sweep, quite frankly. And for those who forgot, this weekend series is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday from here on out until Hoover, and it may even be the case in regional and super regional play as well. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 more weekends before we head to Hoover. Eric mentioned it; he'll be on vacation. He may be on the Kentucky preview pod. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Somebody else may be with me. Maybe get old Austin Price on here to preview that series with me. Actually, I may bring Shumpert back.
I was going to say, hey, give the people what they want. Bring old Shumpster back. I doubt there'll be Wi-Fi on my little beach house I'm going to, but we can try. But hey, give the people what they want. We'll Shump Mania, get him back on, and it'll be the best rated podcast you have.
All right. Eric Cain's going to the beach this week. I'm going to Lexington, Kentucky. We'll be back with you at some point this week.
It's
Eric, enjoy
about the same thing, right?
Yeah. Enjoy your vacation this week, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Sorry I got a little wacky towards the end, man, but I appreciate it. And we'll talk again. More baseball on Sunday.
And the more we do this on Sunday, the more wackier it will be because it has been a long weekend and the weekends will continue to be long. So for Eric Cain, I am Ben McKee. We hope you all have a great week.